Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We'll start right at 2. We have a few more moments. Hello, everyone. Welcome to BuildingsNY Unlocked. My name is Chaya Molberg. I'm the show vice president and general manager of BuildingsNY, and I'm delighted to welcome you today to our virtual session, Increasing Your NOI in 60 Days with Strategic Unit Turnover Management. Before introducing our speaker, Adam Shirato, and getting started, however, let me do a few housekeeping things with you. First, I'd like you to know that this session will be recorded and will be available for your viewing on demand for you to review later or share with others. All participants will be muted. If you have any questions for the panelists, please write them in the Q&A box that you'll see at the bottom. If you're not familiar with the Zoom platform, you have different viewing options based upon the screen you're using, but you will find the Q&A easily located on all of them. If we cannot answer all of your questions, please don't worry. You'll be asking them and it'll be connected to your email address, and Adam and the team at SuiteSpot will be happy to follow up with you afterwards. If you have any technical issues at all, please feel free to use the submit them through the chat feature. That's what we'll be monitoring for technical issues. Otherwise, submit all questions through the Q&A button. Thank you very much. It is now my pleasure and honor to introduce today's speaker, Adam Shirato, Solutions Architect at SuiteSpot Technology. I'll be back on towards the end when Adam starts taking questions. Thank you all. Adam, it's all yours.
Thank you very much, Kaya. Thank you everybody else for joining us today. Today we're going to go over obviously how to increase your NOI with strategic unit turnover management and maintenance tracking. I know that sounds like a lot, but we're going to try to make this as simple as possible to really show you how easy it is to make tangible benefits in your organization. Now, for those of you that don't know, SuiteSpot Technology is a platform for managing all aspects of property maintenance. This goes everything from unit turnovers, renovations and repositioning, inspections, work orders, service requests, preventative maintenance, basically anything that needs to get done to maintain the status of the property and also to improve it. So as we go through things, if you have any questions, feel free to drop those into the Q&A session. Of course, I'm going to try to get to as many of these questions as possible towards the end of the session. But if I'm not able to get to your question, rest assured I will reach out to you, or another member of my team will reach out to you to make sure you get all the information that you need. So now let's start with, what is NOI? It's a pretty basic concept. It's the net operating income. We have liabilities and expenses, and then we also have revenue and income. And really, to really drive NOI, you're either going to have to increase that revenue per unit. We call it, the RPU. How much rent are you taking in, and things like that. But you can also impact your NOI by reducing costs, making people more efficient, doing more with less. With your marketing, your maintenance budgets, all of these different things. And that's really the key drivers for NOI. Now, over the last, I'm going to say, 10, 15, 20 years, let's say, there's been a lot of technology that has really taken, real estate to places that it's never been. We've got, real estate brokerages software, we've got virtual tours, we've got, online marketing and MLM platforms, and of course, CRM software that's really impacted almost every single aspect of the multifamily industry. But there's one place that really hasn't gotten kind of the attention that it deserves. And we call it, the dreaded unit turnover process. And when I say the dreaded unit turnover process, I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm not saying that, oh gosh, we don't want this unit turnover process to happen. What I'm saying is that it can be a very cumbersome process. And with that, the number of steps, the number of stakeholders, as those things increase, it can really increase the complexity in making sure that every single time a unit needs to turn, we're going to nail that process 100% every time. If you've got one unit turnover happening in a month, it's probably not that big of a deal. But when you start getting into, 5, 10, 15, 50 unit turns at a property in a month, well, now you're juggling, 50 plus inspections. You got to deal with your vendors and your contractors. You've got to deal with ensuring that site staff are doing what they need to do, when they need to do it, to prepare for when that unit gets vacated, to minimize the amount of vacancy loss. And when you look at a traditional turnover process, we kind of define this as chaos, and it's not necessarily chaotic in the sense that everything is random, but it is a lot of balls to juggle. And I always like to use this juggling analogy. You know what? If I need to manage one unit turnover, okay, I may have 1 or 2 balls in the air. I got to make sure, oh, did I inspect the unit? Yes, I did. Did I, contact my contractors? Great. Is everybody in agreement on what the scope is? Awesome. And I can kind of deal with that. But when I'm, again, dealing with 5, 10, 15, 50 unit turnovers a month, if I forget to inspect the unit, that's a problem. If I don't hear back from a vendor or a contractor about one unit, that's a problem. There's so many different balls that are in the air during this unit turnover process. We want to make sure that none of these balls get dropped. None of these balls fall under a table, they get kicked into a black hole and they get lost up until the point where, that ball kind of gets found and it's like, oh, I forgot to inspect that unit, or, oh, right, I didn't hear back from the painter about that unit. Because all of those things, they cause delays, and really delays are the main, let's call it preventable factor that can increase your NOI. If you delay doing that pre-move out inspection until the day before the unit turns over, or the day before that unit becomes vacant, you're already behind the 8 ball. You got to get your contractors in line. You got to get your materials shipped and ordered. You got to make sure that your maintenance team has capacity in order to perform these tasks. So if you don't do everything in a timely manner, that's where a lot of this problems happen. And we actually did a study using, over 50,000 units that have been run through our platform, our unit turnover platform. And we found that there's a few key areas that contribute to these delays. Number one, scheduling errors. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that, oh, I scheduled the painting for a plumber. I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. But, if you don't make sure that there's somebody working in the unit every day until that unit gets turned, every day that unit sits empty, you're losing rent, right? So we want to make sure that when that turnover process is underway, everything is ready. We've got all the materials we need. We've got all the vendors we need. Everybody knows their marching orders, essentially. So day 1, we're going to have the trash out. Day 2, we're going to get the flooring done. Day 3, we're going to do the painting, or whatever your process is. But there's not going to be any blank space that's going to contribute to losing your NOI. We've also got, delays due to scope changes. Now, traditionally, we're always going to have certain kinds of scope changes. We'll call those, site conditions. We're going to do we're going to replace the tub surround. When we take off the old tile, turns out that the wall behind that is rotten. We can't predict those things. But what we can do is instruct people when they're doing that pre-move out inspection or the move out inspection to check certain things. Make sure that certain boxes are being checked so that we're not being surprised later on, because they're not really surprises at that point. If you look at a door and the door looks fine, but oh, right, when we let's say we're gonna replace the flooring, and we know that there's 2 layers of vinyl underneath the ceramics or underneath the wood, and we're gonna bring it all down to base. Well, we need to measure that in advance so that we order the right door. We make sure that we have the right finishes. We know everything that's going to happen so it doesn't surprise us down the road. Lastly, we have the turnover time, being added due to delayed decisions. Now, a lot of this has to do with the fact that most systems, manual or electronic, up to this point, require you to be interacting or to do this data entry on a computer. So if I go to, let's say I go to a unit and I do my pre-move out inspection, but I have to go back to the office to put that in, I might forget to put that in. or something may get lost in translation. Maybe I give somebody my notes that I took when I was doing that inspection. I give it to somebody else. They can't read a 3 versus an 8 because I wrote it down, kind of scribbly. That's going to lead to problems. If there's any sort of approvals that need to happen around purchase orders or anything like that, if somebody has to be at their computer to do that, that really limits their ability to do so. If they're a regional manager, property manager, and they're visiting their sites all day, they might not be at a computer all day. So we need an easier way or a better way to allow them to do this. And when you really add up all of these possibilities for delays and confusion and issues, it can really creep up in terms of value. Now, again, this goes back to that same, 50,000 unit white paper that we did. And we found that, if you're able to optimize as much as possible, make everything as efficient as possible, put the visibility in front of the people that need it in order to be able to perform their duties the best, you're able to save up to $3 million in recurring revenue, not recurring revenue, I shouldn't say that, in recurring savings. And your asset value is going to improve somewhere between $40 and $60 million, obviously based on the extent that you're able to benefit from these changes. Now, the best way to benefit from these changes is to change that chaos that I showed you in the previous slide, into simplicity. The unit turnover process is not rocket science. It's not like everybody has their own, kind of special sauce way of doing it. But you really have to understand the way that you're currently doing your processes in order to understand how you can improve on them. And that's why we have our 3 core actions. Now, the first action that we always like to start with is to map your business processes. If you don't know the way that things are happening at the site level, you can't possibly hope to improve on them. So we really try to start with this mapping of business processes. How do they work now? How would we like them to work? What sort of improvements can we make? And what sort of, let's call it dangers, do we want to avoid? And let's put that down so we all have a common understanding. Second part of this process is to automate your workflows. Now, when I say automate your workflows, I don't mean that, we're going to have a droid or, some sort of a drone that's going to go in and inspect your units. They're not going to robocall your vendors to make sure everything's all set up. But it's about understanding who's responsible for each part of the process and eliminating any of the possible human factors that could lead to delays or errors in that process. So when I talk about automating your processes, I'm really talking about eliminating human error from the process. Third part of the process is to train and execute your team on these new or possibly revised processes. Everybody's, most property managers, if you were to pick a property manager, you had a time machine and you go back, 50 years, you pick a property manager up and you bring them into today, they're probably going to be able to do their job for the most part, without any sort of new training involved. They may not know what a cell phone is, they may not know what a computer is, but they're going to be able to organize themselves the way that they've been doing it thus far. But with these new processes, you are going to have to bring a little bit of modernity into their lives. And from our experience, and specifically my experience, this is probably one of the more easier things that everybody thinks is a very difficult process. Change management is a big deal whenever you're going to change the way that people do things. And a lot of people get scared of it. But I'm here to tell you that, once they see how much easier it makes their lives to digitize things, have one task list to manage as opposed to, I'm going to manage some things on Post-its and some things on whiteboards and some things on a notepad. When they have one place to look, it really helps to make their lives easier, and it also helps improve the performance of the property as a whole. So the first step of this process is to map your business processes. Now, when I say map your business processes, really all I'm talking about is figuring out the way that you do things right now. Now, this is a diagram that we have, kind of distinguishes the various parts and systems that need to interact with each other. In this case, this is for a unit turnover process. So it starts with the notice to vacate being entered into the PMS, because there's always some sort of PMS that needs to happen. And then what we're able to do within SuiteSpot, we can actually synchronize with those PMSs to pull that information into SuiteSpot. So you're not having to duplicate the work. You're not having to say, okay, well, I need to go put in this move out notice into, you know, Yardi, MRI, RealPage, Entrada, whatever, and then I need to do the same thing in SuiteSpot. We want to deduplicate any of these work efforts, so we're able to pull this all in. And then, you know, whatever the process is from that point on, you know, I've been in this industry, you know, over 10 years, almost 15 years at this point. And I've been in the software part of the industry for, you know, the last 4 or 5. And I've still yet to see 2 companies that approach their unit turnover process in exactly the same way. So all we're looking for at this point, you know, we want to figure out how are you doing things now. And the reason to do that is to, number one, let you understand the way that things happen, because I know, especially, you know, the higher you get up in the food chain, the further away you are removed from the site level. You may think that you know how things are operating, but you may not know how things are operating. So this is the first part, understanding how things are operating, who's responsible for what tasks, you know, what are the deadlines that are currently in place, and then we can start to improve on those, even at a very, very simple level. You know, if right up, for example, if the current guidelines are, you know what, residents need to give 60 days notice, we want to make sure that all, you know, pre-move out inspections and scoping tasks are done 30 days prior to move out. Well, maybe that may be the, you know, the rules right now, but maybe those aren't the best rules. Maybe we need to change that. Maybe we need to say, you know what, if we're getting 60 days notice from our residents, let's make that 45 days. Let's make sure all those inspections are done 45 days prior. So this is the first part of improving that NOI. You're going to make sure that, you know, everybody knows what they need to do, when they need to do it, where they need to do it, and how it needs to be done. So this is the first part, data gathering exercise. It's very simple. It doesn't take very much time at all. Now, this other diagram I have here, this is the same thing, but this is for a service request. So a resident comes in, they've got, you know, their cabinet door won't close or something like that. Typically they'll speak to the site staff or the property manager, and then there'll be a process that those people will follow to make sure that this, you know, service request gets dealt with. But there's really no visibility beyond that, because it's a very personal thing, you know, person to person, or maybe they've submitted that request through a resident portal. So some people get a view to it, but maybe not all the people that need to have a view to it do. If a resident submits a request and it sits there for 10 days, does anybody really know that it sat there from 10 days unless they look at the screen or they pull it up manually? You know, are they being alerted when things fall off the rails? Probably not. And these are all additional things that can lead to, you know, greater resident satisfaction. You know, if they're being engaged throughout that process, you know, they're constantly getting communication updates, you're going to get a lot less problems with those residents complaining that, you know what, I submitted this request and I submitted it 3 times and it still hasn't been dealt with, and, you know, yada, yada, yada. If everybody that needs to have visibility to these processes has visibility to them, they're going to be in a much better position to positively impact that scenario. So yeah, so this is the first part, mapping the processes. You can see it's very simple. Essentially, it's a quick discussion, you know, what happens first, what happens second, what happens third, and what kind of closes out the loop. And that's the very easy part of this. Second part is where really kind of SuiteSpot comes into play with this, is to automate the workflows. Now, when I say automate workflows, again, I'm not saying that we're going to do things for anybody, but we're going to make intelligent decisions based on the way that you want things to work. So for example, this is an example of a very simplified, you know, unit turnover process. Resident gives notice to vacate. So first thing we need to do, perform that pre-move out inspection. Now, performing that pre-move out inspection, how do you get that information to the person that needs to do it? Where do they get their list of unit turnovers? Does it come automatically? Is it on a screen that they can see that's real time? So if somebody puts in their notice, you know, 5 minutes from now, am I going to see that on my screen 5 minutes from now? Or do I have to wait for somebody to inform me of that? If I have to wait for somebody to inform me of that, I can almost guarantee you that from time to time, something's going to fall through the cracks and that unit's not going to get inspected when it should. If you've got a digital platform that can do all of that for you, you know, it's very up to date, it's updated in real time, you don't have to worry about that. Same thing with who's assigned to do it. You always want to make sure that somebody has a responsibility for performing each task. So we don't want to say, oh, this task has to be performed and then just kind of leave it in a black hole, or, you know, leave it on a table for somebody to pick up. although that is an option. But for the most part, we want to make sure that somebody is ultimately responsible for that. And if they're not able to do that, then somebody else is going to get alerted saying, hey, this isn't happening. It looks like there's trouble. And this is an all automated scenario. So automatic assignment of tasks, automatically creating new tasks when tasks are completed. So as soon as the pre-move out inspection is completed, there's a new task that gets created. Now we need to assign the work, whether it's to our internal maintenance teams or whether it's for external vendors. Maybe we need to order some materials. Somebody has to be responsible for that, and we need to make sure that it's done. And the great thing about having everything in a very systematic way is that you can now track each of these tasks, and you can develop KPIs on them. How quickly are we doing our pre-move out inspections after we get notice to vacate? How long does it take us to assign the work once the pre-vacate inspections have been done? What are the percentages of change orders that are occurring after the resident has left the unit, and which of those are site conditions, which of those were just kind of missed on pre-inspection? If you don't have a systematic way of dealing with your process, you're not going to be able to calculate those KPIs, and you're not going to be able to track your progress. Now, with SuiteSpot, we do have certain key components of the product that really help with a lot of these things. We do have our built-in service catalogs and workflow rules. And what this essentially means is there's no, let's call it, there's no big effort to onboard yourself within SuiteSpot. You can literally, give us the list of properties, or we will integrate with your property management system, pull that all in automatically. And you can really run with the defaults if you want. And actually, this is something that I actually tend to try to impress on our customers that, don't do a big data gathering exercise. Don't do a big, 2-3 month process to try to figure out what do we think is the best way to move forward. Let's start with what you're doing right now, and let's just put it into SuiteSpot. And then as you run with this system, you're going to see what works and what doesn't work. As something that doesn't work, if you find something doesn't work, this task is not being performed the way I want to do it. Let's add some extra criteria or extra parameters around those tasks. We don't want people to have to, build their own list of inspection templates. We don't want people to have to figure out, what's the best way of doing things. We want people to take the benefit of our years of experience and all of the experiences that we've had with our customers, and just kind of try to incorporate those into their existing processes. Of course, we've got our mobile data capture as well. So you're not going to need to go back to your office to, quote unquote, complete the task by doing the data entry. You're going to be able to stay on site longer and do more tasks, as opposed to having to, maybe write them down on a piece of paper, bring it back to the office, put that data in. Oh no, maybe I lost the paper, or maybe I can't remember which photos I took from which unit. These are all easily solvable processes using the SuiteSpot platform. We also have the output of the processes. So we've got our data aggregation reports and our analytics. They're going to tell you how you're performing. Does property A take longer to do their inspections? Maybe their inspections take 15 minutes versus property B, who only takes 5 minutes. But maybe the ultimate turnover time is 30% less because they spent that extra 10 minutes doing that pre-move out inspection. With SuiteSpot, you're going to be able to gather all these nice data points and use these data points in aggregation and analytics to actually improve your organization as a whole. So when you find something that works at one property, well, let's try it at another property, see if it works there. And that's all, accruing to your benefit at that point. We've also got our PMS plugin. So for, Yardi, MRI, RealPage, and Trot, all the big guys, we want to make sure that we're eliminating data duplication. We don't want people, like I said earlier, we don't want people having to put in move-in notices in 2 places at once. We don't need people to, manually type out a purchase order when we can just push those details into that purchasing system. We want to remove all of those possibilities from human error where possible as part of this whole, automate the process step. So with all of these different tools and processes, we are really able to do that. Now, the last part of this is, or not the last part, I shouldn't say that. Here's some more examples of how you're able to do that. So this is a view to our mobile application. If you need to, build your scope of work while you're in the unit, this is all customizable, not customizable, I shouldn't say that, I should say configurable. So, for example, in this case, there's a tub surround. Whenever we need to replace the tub surround, I want to mandate a photo so that anybody that needs to maybe possibly give their approval to this is able to do it without having another site visit. And this is all available from our mobile app. The mobile app actually works as well in a majority of an offline mode. So you don't need to have a constant internet connection in order to use our app. Obviously, the more internet connection you have or the connectivity you have, the more up-to-date information you're going to get. But it's not a prerequisite. We've dealt with people in downtown Atlanta or downtown New York or whatever, and you'd think that they have good reception everywhere, but especially some of these old buildings, especially the high rises that are made out of concrete. You get into the bathrooms, you've got all that wire lath. You're essentially in like a Faraday cage, and you just don't have any reception. You don't want that to be a problem with having your staff perform their tasks. So that's what we're all about, making it easy for people to gather the data that needs to be gathered in the way that you want them to gather that data without causing them any real issues. Now, we are also all have the ability to do the assignments of that work right from the mobile app as well. Now, some people choose to do it through the mobile app. Some people choose to do it through our Make Ready board. I'll touch on that Make Ready board in just a minute. But you do have the ability to basically complete 100% of the task while you're in the unit. No more having to remember, all right, I inspected 5 units. Let me go back to my office. Let me arrange for my vendors for all of the 5 units, or let me assign some of the work to our internal maintenance teams. You don't really need to do that. You can do it all right while you're in the unit. And then the second you walk out the door, there's nothing left to do. You don't have to remember to do anything else. There's no missing pieces. Everything's completed. Same thing goes for any sort of approvals that need to happen. So on the left side of the screen here, we've got we call it our payback calculator or ROI calculator. Essentially, this gives you, if you do need to have a kind of an approval process for any sort of spending decisions, you can do this all from your mobile. So if you're driving around, you're in and out of meetings all day, but somebody relies on you to get this approval or this go-ahead before they actually start the work. They don't have to wait for you to get back to your computer. They can pull up, you'll get a push notification on your mobile device. You can see all of the relevant information required to make your spending decisions. You can see all of the photos, the notes, everything that's been gathered as part of those pre-move out inspections. And you can just, with a simple click of the button, you can approve that job. And that's automatically going to create your POs. That's going to let everybody know that the job has been approved. And really, you're just kind of eliminating a possible bottleneck from the process. And being able to do this all, from your mobile app, whether it's a tablet or cell phone, or we even have actually people using iPod touches. It really just kind of eliminates that need to go back to your desk and the delays that are associated with that. Now, we also have a digital Make Ready board. So everybody's very familiar with the concept of Make Ready board. It's kind of the what do I call it? It's the de facto way to manage your Make Ready projects. So what we've done is we've actually pulled that Make Ready board and we built it into SuiteSpot. So you're able to track all of the different move-outs that are happening. You're able to define the various steps throughout the Make Ready process. And the nice thing about this is you can access this from anywhere. You can access this from your phone. You can access this from your computer, from your laptop. You don't have to be on site to manage your Make Ready process anymore. Another great thing about our Make Ready process, the Make Ready board, is that it does integrate very nicely with our mobile app. So for example, if I go and I do my pre-move out inspection and I identify the work that needs to happen, I don't then have to come back to my Make Ready board and manually fill that out. It's automatically going to be filled out for me. It's going to say, oh yeah, we do need trash out, or we don't need trash out, or does it need paint or clean or carpet? Like, what does it need? I don't have to then manually put that in. It's, I already did that when I built my scope of work at the pre-move out inspection. And then same thing, if I want to update this, I can update this either from the board or I can update it from the mobile app. So for example, another good thing is, the verification that work has been completed. So if I go into unit, 102 at 95 Bradford Avenue, I see the paint has been completed. I mark that complete on my mobile app and it automatically updates in real time on the Make Ready board. So anytime anybody's looking at this Make Ready board, they're going to have the most up-to-date information as to the status of each unit turnover happening at every property. So if you're a regional manager or you're a maintenance manager or maintenance director, and you want to kind of see how things are progressing, you just go, you pull up your Make Ready board, you're going to be able to see all those details. You want to filter out a specific month, go for it. You want to see all your unscheduled work, very easy to do. We have all these advanced filters that allow for that. and it just makes it a lot easier to manage your make ready process. And it's also very familiar, so it really reduces the amount of change management that is needed, because everybody knows how to use a make ready board for the most part. All we did is digitize it and make it much easier to update and view compared to a physical make ready board. Now, we also do the same things with all aspects of property maintenance and facility management. So this is an example of a dashboard that we have. So you can pull up this dashboard, you're a property manager, regional manager, whatever. You're able to see, what are my late tasks? What am I behind on? How are my work orders doing? What emergency work orders have I dealt with recently? How old are my turnovers, and what do I have upcoming? You're able to see it all from one screen, as opposed to, if you think about how to do this in the manual way, you're going to have to pick up the phone, and you're going to have conversations with multiple people, and that number of people is just going to expand with however many properties you need to manage. With a simple kind of dashboard like this, you're managing all of your service requests, work orders, unit turnovers, make readies, preventative maintenance tasks. It's all front page news, let's call it, because literally when you log into the web app in SuiteSpot, this is the front page that you see. So you don't have to go looking for this information. The information is going to come and find you, and it's going to show you exactly what needs to be dealt with and what has more urgency over the other parts of the processes that you're currently managing. We also have great dashboards for work order management. This is especially good for maintenance supervisors, maintenance managers. They can see exactly how much work is outstanding, where is the work needed, how busy are all of my technicians, what do I need to deal with right now, how many things are overdue, what do I have to schedule still, or what do I need to assign. It's very easy, and you can do it all from here. You don't have to go to separate screens to schedule work or assign work or any of that stuff. You can do it all right from the dashboard. So this is kind of like your if you're a maintenance manager, maintenance supervisor, this is your main screen that you're going to be dealing with. Gives you all the information you need to know. There's a lot of KPIs as well that you can see along here. How long did it take me to assign work? How long did it take once it was assigned to get completed? And the best thing is we're actually gathering statistics on all of these various metrics and KPIs. So you're able to actually track the performance. How are we in June? How are we in July? Is it trending up? Is it trending down? What are we looking at here? So it's very easy to do this. Because we have all of this data inside of SuiteSpot, it's very easy for us to not only track the data, plot the data, show you the trends, but also to identify the key areas where you can kind of experience the most improvement on a go-forward basis. We also have, the last thing I'll show you kind of with this is our inspection summarizer. Now this is mostly for, let's call it property-wide inspections, or when you want to know, what is the current state and condition of my properties. So you can look at this as a singular property, you can look at this as a regional, you can look at this as a company-wide. Essentially what this allows you to do is not only understand, what areas need attention in the property, whether it's in unit, common area, mechanical systems, whatever. You're able to actually see that. So like, for example, here we've got this, this is actually an example of how this tool can be used to provide some benefit in terms of capital planning. So in this case, this customer, it's anonymized data, but essentially what we did is we went through about, I don't know how many units, probably I'm going to say like 1,500 units. And they actually identified, what was the make of the refrigerators and the year of manufacture. All they did, they opened the door, they looked at the little placard, they typed it down. And at the end of the day, they can see, oh, well, I've got, 62 refrigerators that are over 20 years old. And then I've got another 249 that are at least 15 years old. I've got another 249 that are at least 10 years old. So if I know, or I estimate that, my average lifespan of a refrigerator is 12 years, I know that I've got, around, 550 refrigerators that are going to be, due, quote unquote, to fail at any time now. So maybe now I want to take this opportunity to, contact my appliance supplier. Maybe I want to, negotiate a bulk discount, replace them all at once. Maybe I just want to know this information so that I have it. And then now I know, oh, next year I need to budget for, X amount of dollars for refrigerators. or maybe I just want to, replace them as they break. But at least with this, a tool like this, you don't have to kind of guess. You're not, kind of putting your thumb in the air and, oh, I think I have this many refrigerators coming due, or, I think I have this many unrenovated units that I want to renovate. You don't have to guess anymore. All of the data is going to be in there. And the best thing is that you're going to gather this data doing the tasks that you would have to do otherwise. If you're in the unit for somebody like my previous example where the cupboard doesn't close and the maintenance tech goes in there, maybe you ask him while he's in there as part of the process that you designed, you know what, just check and see what the year of the refrigerator is if we don't have it. Or maybe, check the smoke detector or the CO detector, see when those are going to expire next, or, basically gathering all of this other information that provides a lot of tangible benefits just because they're already in the unit. It just makes a lot of sense. And it gives everybody that needs to make these decisions, the tools and the information they need in order to actually make them, as opposed to just guessing. Now, the last part of the process is train and execute. Now, this is really kind of the easiest part of the process. We've really developed a great onboarding methodology. It doesn't take a lot of time. I'm going to say most of our customers, even the large ones, they can be up and running within a matter of weeks. It really, because of the iterative way that we do things, we figure out, what's your biggest priority now? Let's do some process discovery. Let's gather the minimum amount of data that needs to happen, decide on pilot properties, stuff like that. And then we're going to map your workflows as per stage 1 of this 3-stage process. And then we're going to do the rest, essentially. We're going to prepare all your data. We don't expect our customers to have to, input data, configure things themselves. We take that burden on ourselves. Obviously, we're the ones that know the system the best. We can do it the easiest. So we take that on for you. We don't put that on your plate. And then once that's all done, we do our launch. And the launch is very, very simple. We're going to start with a pilot property or region, let's call it. We're going to start with the most prevalent or pressing matter. If it's service request, it's service request. If it's unit turns or unit renovations or common area inspections, whatever, we're going to start with that and we're going to deploy it. And then we're going to have frequent sessions to optimize that process. So, for the first 3 months, we're probably going to talk once every couple of weeks. We're going to expect feedback from the users and the managers and everybody that's a part of the process. And we are going to adapt this process to make sure that it checks all the boxes that need to be checked and gives everybody the input they need in order to ensure that the process is running as optimally as possible. And then once we've dealt with that, what's the next priority? Okay, well, let's deal with that. And then what's the priority after that? Okay, let's deal with that. And it's not to say that we can't deal with multiple priorities at once. Of course we can. It's really just, we can run as fast as you can run, essentially. I'm not trying to brag here. I am fairly tall, so I have long stride. But yeah, we're really able to run and deploy things as quickly as you want. So it's not like an extremely long process. I know some of our customers are doing, kind of upgrades to their PMS system, even just going from, one version to a new version of the same software. It can take 6 to 8 months. That's not the case with SuiteSpot. We are very flexible, we're very configurable, and we're very fast at what we do. And we also talk to our customers. So, our customers, we like to say that, our customers are our best source of ideas, because they really are. If somebody comes up with an idea like, hey, did you ever think about this? Or it would be really great if, function X worked in this way. We take all of that stuff to heart, and we regularly have internal discussions where we discuss the feedback that we get from our customers in order to benefit our customers. So that's something that's really great about SuiteSpot. Not only that you can implement it very quickly, you're going to see benefits very quickly. It's not going to require a lot of your time or your users' time in order to do so, but we are there to listen for them and listen to them, take their ideas, implement them, and do the necessary training to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So that's what SuiteSpot is. We're really an end-to-end platform. We don't want to do part of the job. We don't want to manage, just the inspection portion of property maintenance or facility management. We don't want to do that. We want to manage processes end to end. So good example, unit turnovers from the second that move out notice gets entered, or the notice to vacate gets received, all the way until that new resident takes residency in that unit. We're a part of that process. We're documenting every step along the way. We're making sure everybody knows what they need to do, where they need to do it, and when they need to do it. And if anything falls outside the rails, that's where our escalation and alert engine gets kicked in. So if I'm a property staff member and it's my responsibility to do the move-in inspection with the new resident, as soon as that becomes overdue because I forgot to do it, that can start to alert the property manager. And if the property manager doesn't deal with it, then it can alert the regional manager. Making sure that, you don't have to constantly ask your staff for not service requests, for status updates. You're really able to manage by exception as opposed to having to be, kind of constantly, where are we with this and what's going on with this process? You don't have to do that. SuiteSpot really lets you concentrate on your main focus and then only involves you when you need to get involved. So it really helps you, spend more of your time on your key processes. But when you do need to be brought on board something else, we're able to do that as well. Now, so we would like to say we're bringing unit turnovers into the 21st century. Like I said before, there's been a lot of, technological advancement in the multifamily industry from the purpose of, leasing and, online websites and, resident portals and all these kind of things. But really, nobody's kind of tackled these maintenance processes. And we always say, unit turnover failures and really any sort of maintenance failure is really death by 1,000 cuts. If I'm 1 day late or 1 day over, let's say, on a unit turnover, I experience 1 more day of vacancy loss. To me, that's probably not a really big deal. If I'm especially, I'm a maintenance manager or something, oh yeah, we're 1 day late. That's not a big deal. But if you've got, dozens of properties and you're dealing with, dozens, 50, however many unit turnovers, all of these things can really add up. And these are all preventable issues. If you forgot to inspect a unit, that's a preventable issue. If you've got something that tells you, hey, these are the things that you need to inspect, and until you inspect them all, it's going to be on your screen telling you that you need to inspect it. It's a lot harder to forget to inspect that unit versus, oh, somebody gave me a list of all of the units that are turning over this month, and I went and inspected them, but nobody updated me on the 3 new ones that we got last minute. You know what I mean? These are all very preventable things. And most of the delays and most of the problems that happen as part of the unit turnover or any sort of maintenance process is really due to either A, somebody forgetting about something, B, somebody forgetting to tell somebody about something else, or C, somebody forgetting to act on something. So if you give the visibility to all of these processes, to all of the people that need to see them, but only when they need to see them, you're going to experience a lot less of these, 1,000 cuts, and you're going to notice great improvements in your process. A lot of the time, I shouldn't say a lot of the time, but sometimes people are kind of skeptical when we first roll out SuiteSpot at a new property. They're telling me, well, what was wrong with the way I was doing it before? And, I've been doing it this way for 20 years. How is your way so much better? And, within a month or two, I'm getting feedback from these people saying, you know what? I don't forget things, or I haven't gotten in trouble since we've launched SuiteSpot. You know what? All of my pre-move out inspections are done on time. All of my unit turns are being done on time. My residents are happy because I'm not forgetting, or none of their service requests are being missed. And all of my preventative maintenance is being dealt with like clockwork. Why? Because the system does a lot of that thinking for you. It always puts in your immediate visibility when you need to do something, where you need to do it, and when you need to have it done by. And when you only have to have one place to look, like if you just have one mobile app, or you want to use the desktop, you've got one task list. If there's nothing on your task list, you're good. It's not like, oh, did I forget about something, or oh, did a Post-it that I stuck on my monitor, did that fall off and now I lost it? Now I'm gonna I'm gonna hear about this later when it becomes a really big issue. SuiteSpot really kind of eliminates all of those possible issue points from happening just because of the visibility and kind of the guidance that the program gives you. So that's what it's all about. SuiteSpot, we're all-in-one, mobile operations maintenance software. That's really our kind of front line. The property management systems do a great job with leasing and accounting and stuff like that. But really, when it comes to the front line, there's not really a great all-in-one mobile solution. You may have one app for doing your inspections and another app for managing your service requests. And you may not even be able to manage your unit turnovers on a mobile basis. You may have to go back to the computer. But with SuiteSpot, you're able to do all of this from your mobile phone. You're getting the benefit of all automated workflows, faster turns, faster responses to residents, keeping residents in the loop. We've actually just launched a new feature where you're able to actually, send what do we call it? Like satisfaction surveys to the residents automatically. As soon as the technician marks the work done, we can send those surveys off to the residents, get the feedback, ensure that the residents are being happy. Keeping that pathway of communication open with the residents. That's a great way to make sure that they know that you're hearing their requests, you're dealing with them, and you're making sure that they get done in the way that they need to. We've actually also launched a new thing called a resident self-inspection. So because of this whole COVID scenario, maybe we don't want to go in and do the move-in inspection with the resident. We want to let them do it. You send them a quick link. There's no onboarding. There's no installation that they need to do on their side. They just click on the link, they fill out the form, and you get it right back. If there's any issues, you can then deal with them. But these are some of the new features that we've just recently launched. And that's another great thing about us. We're constantly, bringing out new features. We've got asset management and kind of like fixed assets and inventory that we're planning on bringing out within the next few months. We've got a lot more integrations happening with the property management systems. And we're really just looking for more ways to kind of help our customers succeed. We succeed when they succeed. We don't want them to have to do more work than necessary. We don't want them to struggle with tasks that can be easily, digitized and automated. And that's really what we're about. Alongside with all of that, we want to gather the information. I always say, and I'm sure a lot of other people would say this as well, if you can't measure it, then why do it? How can you hope to get better at a process or a problem if you're not measuring it? So we gather as much data as possible, as simply as possible, without extra needed effort from our customers. And then we present that data to the people that need to be able to see it so they can make better decisions, whether that's about spending, whether that's about strategic decisions. Do we want to, fully renovate our properties, or maybe a kitchen reno is good enough? And, what kind of rent lift are we seeing when we do A versus B? All of those things, because we're gathering the data, we can present that in whatever format is needed to make sure that our customers are making the best decisions with the best data. And a lot of this stuff is kind of proven. As we did that white paper I was saying with the research on the 50,000 unit turns, we also looked at, okay, what happened afterwards? Once they implemented the SuiteSpot formula, what happened? So we're seeing, a lot quicker, a lot fewer delays in decisions and approvals. There's a lot less, let's call it lag in the process. We're seeing much fewer change orders because people are inspecting the way that they're expected to inspect. They're not just, doing it the way that they do it to get it done the quickest. They're doing it in the most efficient way to gather the best data to make sure that there are no problems later on. Of course, the amount of administrative work is being saved is a great deal because we're automating a lot of these things. Automated, purchase order creation, automated, jobs being started by somebody putting in a service request through the resident portal, or, putting in that move out notice into the PMS, automatically starting things, not having to search for things is a huge deal. With everything being digitized within SuiteSpot, you want to go look for something in a specific unit, you pull up that unit history, you're going to see absolutely everything about that unit. You don't have to worry that somebody, oh, I filed it under May instead of March. If you misfile something, that file is as good as lost. You're either going to have to recreate it, which is going to take time, or you're just, oh, I don't know where it is, and we're just going to have to deal with it. So a lot of these things are really easily solvable by our SuiteSpot platform. And really, it's all you're going to need to manage your operations. We handle this as a multifaceted approach. It's not just unit turnover. It's not just service requests and work orders. We do have an entire mobile inspection module for things such as, common area inspections, pool inspections, boiler inspections. Anything that needs to happen on a frequent or recurring basis can be added in as part of our preventative maintenance module. You can build your maintenance schedules so you don't have to say, oh, right, it's January, everybody go change your fan filters, or, it's February, or not, I shouldn't say February, it's April, let's turn off our ramp heat, or whatever. You don't have to deal with any of those things. All happen automatically within the app. We've also got our vendor engagement and procurement module. Now, this works very similarly, not similarly, this is your opportunity to essentially engage with your vendors electronically. You don't have to call them and say, hey, I've got 5 paint jobs for you next month. Are you able to do it? Simple email gets sent out to them. They get essentially 2 buttons saying, yes, I want to do it, or no, I don't want to do it. If there's a need to get a quote, they can submit quotes electronically. And it all happens without, again, any onboarding required. You don't have to onboard your vendors. You don't have to set up username, passwords, all that kind of stuff. It just automatically works through our secure mobile links that we're able to send via email. And then, of course, we've got our escalations and alerts, which are, kind of the backup to make sure that, everybody's performing their tasks when they need to perform it. If something falls out of bounds, somebody didn't do something when they should have, somebody else is going to get alerted to it. Of course, this is all generating KPIs as well. So if you want to kind of score people or score property performance, very easy to do so as well. And then, of course, we've got our flexible integration. So we are able to integrate with, like I said, the majority of the main property management systems, but we're also able, we've also done it in the past where we're able to kind of custom integrate with some of the smaller solutions. So it's very easy for everybody to kind of get themselves up and running with SuiteSpot and basically get all of their benefits. You get anytime, anywhere access, as long as you've got a mobile phone or an internet connection. You can access absolutely everything within SuiteSpot. Our customers love it. Like I said, even if they're skeptical at the beginning, a couple months of use, and they really start to see the benefit. And everybody that's, used the application up until this point, we really haven't had a lot of negative feedback. And when they do have an opportunity to give us some sort of negative feedback, we make sure to, fill that hole, let's say, for the benefit of everybody else. So I'd like to thank you all for paying attention. Hopefully I didn't go too quickly there and everybody was able to kind of get a good idea of how they can increase their NOI by using a platform kind of like SuiteSpot. And I'd like to open up the floor for any questions. Oh, Kai, you're muted.
Yeah. Hi, Adam. I know I did that a little too fast. Sorry. Thank you so much. That was amazingly informative. One question, which has a couple likes, came on quite early. So we wondered, what extent are you looking at preventative maintenance of refrigeration and AC in buildings? Such tasks like heat transfer, coil cleanings, filter replacement, etc., is estimated to be 25% of New York City stationary energy emissions.
Yeah, no, that's a really great question. So SuiteSpot does have an entire preventative maintenance kind of module. So if you do have anything that needs to happen on a scheduled or recurring basis, you can easily build those schedules in. So if we need to check, what's the refrigerant levels, we need to check it on a bi-monthly or tri-monthly basis. You build that into the system, you apply it to the properties where it needs to be applied to, and those tasks are automatically going to get created. But we kind of try to take it a step further than that. So if there's an upcoming task, or we know that somebody hasn't checked, the refrigerant level, let's just say, we'll use the AC as an example. Somebody hasn't checked the refrigerant level in 3 months, and we want them to check it every 3 months. And somebody happens to go there to, unclog a drain. It'll automatically tell you, it'll tell the technician prior to them going in there, as soon as they click on the task, they're going to say, oh, okay, I have to go there to unclog the drain. But, oh, I should also, check the refrigerant level, check the charge level. Do I need to, and so things like this allow you to prepare in advance, because for a couple different reasons, we don't want people going back to the unit twice for something that could be dealt with in one shot. So if they see, oh, I got to go to unit 103, and I tap on unit 103 and it says, oh, 103, it's going to need their charge level checked. So let me bring all of my equipment with me at the same time to do that charge check and some more refrigerant just in case it needs to be filled. Now I can kind of, 2 birds with 1 stone kind of thing. And it doesn't require any extra effort by the technician's perspective. They're getting this automated message, oh, you're going to this unit for reason A. Well, here's reason B that should also be done at the same time. So why not do that as well? So you can really manage all aspects of preventative maintenance through SuiteSpot, whether it's a recurring inspection. We have a lot of people that are doing, daily property walkthroughs, and then more, a weekly walkthrough that's a little bit more in depth, and a monthly, and then possibly quarterly or semi-annually. You can build these schedules in, And of course, it also uses our escalation and alert, engine. So if something isn't getting done, you're gonna hear about it. So you can really manage your preventative maintenance on a scheduled basis, but we also try to be proactive and kind of hint at other things that need to get done so that they can kind of, maximize their time, go to the unit once, do 3 things versus going back to that unit 3 different times for 3 different reasons.
That will certainly impact the NOI in a positive level for straight away.
Oh, for sure.
Also, we wonder how many properties can be managed in the make-ready board workflow?
That's really I don't want to say infinite because, that's that's not a real number, but yeah, basically you can manage entire portfolios through that make-ready process. We've got customers with, upwards of 300, 400, 500 units, not units, sorry, properties. And you can actually track all of those. And the great thing is about that make-ready board, we do have a great way to filter on that board. So if you just want to look at, show me all of my properties in, the Southwest, no problem. Let's just look at those. Or let's show me all my ones, in a certain region of my property, no problem. Or show me all of my ones where I'm, kind of overdue, or I have a risk of overshooting my vacancy loss targets. Show me those. So you can see as much or as little as you want. Another thing that I didn't mention, but I probably should have, is you can actually structure these make-ready boards to work with multiple types of renovations. So you can have essentially, with all the different columns, you can have some columns that are relevant to back-to-back unit turnovers. Then you can have other columns that are relevant to bathroom renovations, and then other columns that are kitchen renovations, and then other columns that are full renovations. And you can actually, the make-ready board is smart enough so that it knows which columns should be displayed based on the work types that are actually being performed right now. So it's not, it's kind of I don't want to say flexible, I should come up with a better term. It's a dynamic make-ready board. It's not like the one that you have in the shop that, there's 8 columns and that's all we have. Nope. You can have, 4 columns for your back-to-backs. You can have 8 columns for your, kitchen renos, and then, 20 columns if you're going to, be knocking down walls and possibly merging units together and whatever. So yeah, it's really, there's no limit. We try to make SuiteSpot as limitless as possible. We don't have like, number of user limits, number of photo limits. We don't have any of those things. We want people to be able to see all of the information and gather everything that they want to without putting any sort of restrictions on them.
Adam, thank you so much. This has been a tremendously informative hour for all of BuildingsNY's audience. If they aren't seeing it now, they'll be able to see it in the recorded version. I want to remind everybody that they can get additional information at SuiteSpotTechnology.com. And again, we will be following up if there's any questions that come in afterwards. But we thank you very much, Adam, for your time and all of this information. And I thank everyone for participating in BuildingsNY Unlocked.
Thanks a lot, everybody.
Take care.